What's going on, everybody? It's Tron Ninja here, coming at you with the video finally explaining the Raiju and why I think this jet is extremely overpowered. More overpowered than the laser with its OG cannon. And yes, as you probably watched in the laser video, that cannon glitch has been removed, so this is the only jet that you can really use or utilize that is as powerful as the OG laser. And I'm actually in the firm belief that this thing's actually worse than that because it has more armor and it has more versatility in every single scenario. So, but before we get into any of that, can you guys give me a like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and all the other stuff? That would be much appreciated. Anyways, let's get into the review of this vehicle and see if it's worth your time. The first thing we're going to cover on the F-160 Raiju is its price. When I actually took this screenshot, it was on sale for 3.8, but generally it, with the trade price, has 5.1. I believe the non-trade price is like $6.7 million, so it's really worthwhile to do those Avenger missions to get that discount, because this thing literally almost costs more than a laser when it doesn't have the trade price. Quickly, before we get into any of the actual weapon tests, I want to establish that this thing also has the stealth mode, just like the Akula attack helicopter. So basically, it's an activatable stealth mode that only the player can activate. While it's active, they cannot shoot you, but while it is active, they do not show up on the radar. The moment that they show up on the radar is when they have activated their weapons. Generally though, if you're in a plane like green here, and you're in a rogue, you'll be able to hear them sneak up on you pretty easily. That is, if the audio actually works. I'll explain what that means later, but generally, yes, you're going to want to watch out while flying other planes from now on, because this thing can be in stealth mode practically anywhere, and it very much quickly can sneak up on you and kill you and then just fly off, so watch out for this. Now it's time to talk about the real problem and the new glitch they added to the Raiju. Yes, as you can see in the gameplay, you physically can't hear this thing anymore, so you can't hear if someone's sneaking up behind you or anything, because the engine doesn't make any noise. I in fact even had a dogfight once where I couldn't hear the Raiju at all, and he just snuck up behind me, so yeah, this is going to be a major new problem. Yeah, it doesn't fucking tank a million goddamn minigun shots now, but now you can't even hear the thing, and the tracers are still invisible on other people's ends. This clip originally was from ghilleMasters explaining all the different changes from the Chop Shop update. This is actual real footage of Raijus flying around, not making a goddamn sound. So you're gonna have to watch out for this. Also, check out ghilleMasters' video down below if you actually want to see the footage uncut and unedited. Now let's talk about weapons. First off, the Raiju's cannon, and technically the only gun that I'm actually going to be talking about for most of this video, because homing missiles are pretty much the same. The cannon has a 190 meter radius, and it has a very small blast radius compared to its predecessors. Also, it requires like 5 or 7 shots outside of the explosive radius, and within that explosive radius it takes 3 shots. Here's the cannon going against the MOC, one of the most armored vehicles in GT Online, and it actually destroys it fairly quickly. The one thing you will notice though is that this thing doesn't have any force value, so it's not sending the truck flying around, but it does destroy it fairly fast. And here's the test with the Night Shark, while Green tries to attempt to get to his import-export garage while I keep barraging him with the cannon, and see if the cannon can blow him up or he can escape. This is the same test as that I did with the laser, but with its Nerf cannon. Let's see if this one can actually kill it or not. So yes, the cannon could actually kill him, but it took me over 3 minutes, especially because the night shark is an actual small target. Here, we're going to be testing the Raiju's armor against bullets. This is what it was like before the new Chop Chop update. Basically, what would happen is that because you're shooting bullets at this thing, it would just never die. Thankfully, that this has been patched while you're watching this video. It can no longer take this ridiculous amount of bullets. If it attempts to, it'll just blow up within a few seconds. Now it's time for the traditional armor test, the homing missile versus the Raiju. This takes usually around 3 rockets. I have been able to take a 4th one sometimes, but generally that's because GTA Online has a lot of buggy armor glitches right now. And sometimes it even takes 1 rocket, so watch out for that. Same thing with the RPG. It takes 1 rocket just like all these other planes. This one will not take multiple RPGs, so if it hits it, it's gonna die. Same thing with the railgun. If it gets hit by a railgun twice, it's gonna blow up. And this one's pretty consistent too. And then the explosive sniper, this one's consistent across the board as well. 3 shots to destroy a Raiju in general. Quickly before we get into the combat scenarios, I want to briefly go over everything that we have already discussed so you can see it on an actual chart. The cannon range is 190 meters. This is fairly long. I think this is the same range as the B11's cannons. And the player damage, when the cannon hits a player, it has to hit 5 to 7 shots on the outside of the explosion or 3 on the inside of the explosion. So it's not a very good cannon for air-to-ground with players. The missile lock-on range, if anyone really asks, because it's homing missiles, 400 meters for the lock-on. It's different, but it's not that different from other homing missiles. I just thought I'd mention it. This is also the fastest jet in the game. This jet outruns pyros a large portion of the time. This is something that I did not mention. It's very fast to the point that they can literally just sneak up behind you, hit you with a few cannon shots, and then fly away, because not only is your jet damaged now, but your jet is twice as slow, because even pyros can't fucking catch this thing if it's fucking flying away. And because of its stealth mode, it can just constantly attack a single jet and then fly away, and there's nothing the other jet can do unless if it's the other jet's a Raiju. So that's really broken. It has stealth mode. This is a big one. A lot of people like to write this off as, oh, you can just look in the air or you can hear the thing. But I don't think that's a valid argument, especially when we go over these next few things. The VTOL in this jet is really easy to use. It's like training wheels VTOL, basically. It holds your hand so much to the point that you can pull off maneuvers that professional pilots could do with the Hydra's VTOL, but you can do it with zero knowledge of what the fuck you're doing. You can literally do it so fucking easily. And I know that because Green was doing those same things on me back in the laser video in those fucking clips, so that's kind of proof right there. VTOL with stealth mode against ground targets is fucking OP. You don't think this is OP until you realize that all you have to do is sneak up on them when you have lots of cover or you're in the city, use the buildings to your advantage, sneak up on them, kill them, fly away in stealth mode, they won't know where the fuck you are, and then wait a few minutes for them to drop their guard again, and then go in for another VTOL kill. Or you can do this back to back to back. It doesn't really fucking matter because you'll get more kills than they will anyway. It's ridiculous. And this jet is very good for grinding. Very good. To the point that I would say don't even fucking bother buying the Hydra if you haven't bought any fighter jets. This thing just blows the Hydra completely out of the water. There's no reason to buy that piece of shit anymore. Just buy this thing instead. Yes, it's very expensive, as I'll go on later, but it's way better to fucking buy this thing than to buy a fucking piece of shit Hydra, or even the laser. So, do yourself a favor, save up the extra money, get a hanger, and get this thing. You will not regret it at all, especially because it is the fastest jet in the game. You can get missions done twice as fast than any other fucking plane in the game. And because of the vertical takeoff and landing, the VTOL, you can land anywhere you want. You can go to the mission point as fast as possible and finish missions within a few fucking minutes. Why would you not buy this? This is like the Oppressor Mark II of fighter jets. And this is where these next few points, this is where the bad stuff starts coming up. The pilots that know what they're doing or know how to do the glitch can use thermal in this jet, making this jet even worse than it actually sounds. You thought the VTOL was bad when they were sneaking up on you in stealth mode and then using it like a savage. No. The worst is when they're using thermal in flight mode, using those centered missiles to dive bomb you, and then combinate VTOL with it. It makes it unkillable, and they can use fucking thermal in stealth mode, so they can see you, but you can't see them. It's completely broken. So I'm really annoyed that they still have not fixed that, but they fixed the fucking laser cannon glitch. I don't know why the fuck they did that. It has multiple bugs still after the Chop Shop update, like the sound that I've went over many fucking times. The sound doesn't actually register, and when it does register, like in VTOL, it doesn't give you an actual accurate representation of where they are, because the VTOL sound is just not functioning properly. I have an Astro headset, and the fucking thing doesn't work. Like, I can't fucking tell where the VTOL's coming from, the VTOL Raiju. So, you're completely fucked. You have no idea where they're coming from. And when the sound's not playing, you're not getting any audio at all. So, that's great. And, it's very expensive, as I've went over many times. Very, very expensive. $5.1 million for the trade price. 6.7, I believe, for the buy it now. So, even though it is expensive, buy this thing over the Hydra. Do not buy that piece of shit plane. This plane just infinitely beats out the Hydra in every single way. Now, here's the part that makes this thing OP. This is the part that makes the jet the most OP out of everything, out of all those stats. The armor. This thing takes 3 homing missiles, 1 RPG, 2 railgun shots, 3 explosive sniper rounds. You may say, well, that's just the normal armor for every other smuggler's plane. What's the problem? The problem is that it has that armor on top of everything else that I've already listed. How are you supposed to be able to hit a Raiju that is extremely fast, hard to lead targets on, when it has a stealth mode, a VTOL capability, is able to use thermal, and it can sneak up on you from any direction? And the only one that really matters is the explosive sniper at the end of the day. The railgun, you're never going to hit this thing. The RPG, absolutely not, because they don't strafe like lasers do. And homing missiles are fucking garbage, so you only have the explosive sniper. Yeah, you could use the railgun theoretically if you catch them in VTOL trying to kill you, but that's if you can even catch them before they catch you not seeing them. So, yeah, these are the stats of the Raiju and why I believe this fucking jet is broken. I'll go into more of that at the end of the video, but generally these are the stats of the plane. Now we're going to get into the combat scenarios of this plane. Now I'm going to be showcasing an air-to-ground test in normal flight mode against a railgun, just to show why you should not be really using this thing as a traditional laser, if anything, especially because it has 2 missiles and then a cooldown, and then it has a cannon on top of that. That's not really that great. If you're going to use this thing air to ground, you're better off with the missiles first and foremost. As you can see, I can get a kill way easier with them. But secondly, using this jet against ground targets in general just doesn't make sense unless if you're using VTOL or if you're using the thermal, because yes, they didn't fucking remove that still, even in this new update, which still annoys me. But regardless, just use this thing with thermal or just use VTOL with the stealth mode. It's just not worth it to use it in normal flight mode and treat it like an old laser. You have to use this thing a lot differently from the OG laser, that's for sure. Now here comes the air-to-ground test with VTOL and the use of stealth mode while trying to sneak up on Green while he's using a railgun. Generally, if you're using VTOL and you're against a railgun user, you're probably not going to get that many kills. That is one thing that's good with the railgun, at least. It still counters at least the Raiju in some areas. So they can't just spawn camp you with VTOL constantly, because eventually you will end up getting them, because it only takes like 2 railgun shots. But still, this is a very powerful aircraft against people that don't have railguns, and especially explosive snipers, as you'll see in the next test. This next test is the same thing as before, but this time Green is only using the homing launcher just to show how utterly desperate he is to try and kill me, but he physically can't because the homing missile's tracking sucks and it misses constantly all the time, and it doesn't actually have a way to actually kill me. He has no way of actually killing me because the homing missile locks on. It has a terrible travel time compared to the railgun and the explosive sniper, and it's just generally not useful. So if you're fighting people that don't have railguns, don't have explosive snipers, you're basically going to dominate them. And especially people that can't aim railguns, Green is actually one of the rare few that can actually use the railgun. You'd be surprised how many people can't actually aim that thing, so very effective in VTOL. This next test is exactly as the same as the last two, but this time my friend is going to be using the Raiju while I use the explosive sniper. Pretty much the moment that the test starts is when it ends, because the explosive sniper is just that good at taking out jets like the Raiju and the laser because they're extremely bulky. So yeah, not really surprising that this was fast. Here in these next two tests, I wanted to see if being in the city with the off-radar and the VTOL capabilities of this jet would actually benefit it and give it a lot more kills because of the environment in question. Generally speaking, in this first one, it really actually proved to be a detriment because, well, Green hid in this tunnel underground and I was unable to actually use the flight mode because he was constantly underground under something. And going in there in VTOL was extremely risky because if I didn't go in at the right angle or if I missed all my shots, he would have destroyed me instantly. I kept dive bombing him in flight mode, and as you can see, that did not work. And then in this second one, I went full VTOL mode, but again, it's not really surprising that this didn't really last long either because Green knows what he's doing with the railgun. If you have a good gunner with the railgun, they're going to destroy you 90% of the time when you try to VTOL them. However, most railgun users are not that good, so generally speaking, you can take this strategy to full advantage. So even though it's not working on Green here, it'll mostly work on everyone else that doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. So, but if it's someone that knows what they're doing, like Green here, this is not going to work, and it's not a long-term strategy that you want to use forever. And in this test, I'm sure everyone was wondering, how does thermal actually match up in flight mode with dive bombing in combination with its stealth mode and its VTOL capabilities? Well, it actually turns into a very powerful jet. And, you know, my biggest problem with this is that this jet now has the ability to go fucking off radar and use thermal at the same time. And on top of that, VTOL. So there's really no reason that you should not own this thing. It's just way too freaking powerful at this point. Yes, the environment in question in this clip is giving me a hard time to actually kill him, but that's because he's in between a lot of buildings. If you're in an area that is not like this, where green is, you're fucked. The Raiju's gonna kill you so many fucking times, it's not even funny. Not even including the fact that he can use VTOL in combination with this and change up his attack style on the fly. And here is that clip from earlier when I showcased the stealth mode, but this is from my perspective while trying to dogfight Green in his rogue. Honestly, rogues versus Raijus are kind of 50-50 split in the dogfighting scene, mainly because it depends a lot on the pilots, and the rogue is not really good at speed controlling. If you have a good speed controlling Raiju pilot that also uses VTOL and a bunch of other factors, the rogue is just not gonna be a good matchup. It's gonna die a lot of the time. But if you don't run into a pilot that's using VTOL and doesn't know how to actually use speed control or know how to fly the thing in general, basically free mode pilots, yeah, the rogue's pretty good. It's not amazing, but it'll get the job done if you're getting tired of getting blown up by these stupid, really fast jets with VTOL and shit. So, it's a good idea, but generally it will not work against people that know what they're doing. And here's the dogfight test between the B-11 against the Raiju. We are only going to be showing off these two aircrafts in this video because anything else will either destroy it or things like lasers where the Raiju just obviously wins. The B-11, generally speaking, if it gets a good strafe on it or if they know how to speed control, they're going to destroy you. But most of the time, you don't even have to speed control with a B-11 to kill most planes. The B-11's kind of brainless, as I like to put it, because you really don't need to learn anything to fly this thing. That's how easy it is to fly. It's the same thing as this jet, believe it or not. They're just polar opposites of each other. But generally, if a B-11 goes up against a Raiju, the B-11 will win a large portion of the time, as you see here. Now that we're done with the general gameplay so this video doesn't become too long, now I want to have a discussion about if this jet is overpowered or is it somewhat balanced. Well, I am under the firm belief that this jet is extremely overpowered because of the fact that it still has access to the thermal, because they didn't bother to fix that, which was my biggest complaint with the laser. This thing has the ability to go off radar, it has VTOL, and because of all of these factors and its insane mobility and armor, it makes it very hard for me to say otherwise this jet is not overpowered, when in fact it actually is. This jet is so overpowered to the point that I can't even feel safe in my fucking Night Shark when this thing is flying around and I know the pilot's using VTOL. I ran into one pilot that used the VTOL, combinated the missiles with the cannon, and he was using stealth mode and all this stuff, and he destroyed my Night Shark within literal seconds, and I just got into it. So the fact that this jet makes me feel not safe in my Night Shark when even the laser with its OG cannon couldn't do that, that says a lot. And also, we all saw the MOC test when we were using the cannon on it, right? That thing destroyed that thing literally so freaking quickly. Now yes, if that was an actual real MOC with a real player trying to kill me in it, he would not be staying still, but still I digress, because it doesn't throw the target around like the fucking OG cannon of the laser where it's flipping it around, and because it has its VTOL, this thing is literally just a savage that can transform into a fucking fighter plane. That's how ridiculous it is. But it's a savage that can also go off radar. So it's very, very obvious that this jet is overpowered. Not to mention the fact that its sound doesn't even work half the time. Like, the engine does not make any sound for some players. The tracers don't even render. You can't even see if someone's shooting it on your end because the tracers don't load, so you don't know if you're getting shot at or not. And because of all these factors, it's just like, well, what's the point of buying any other plane when this one exists? Exactly, there isn't. There's really no point. The only plane that beats out the Raiju is the B-11, which is like the polar opposite of what this thing is. And that thing, in my opinion, is majorly broken too. So, in conclusion, this jet is absolutely worth your money, but at the same time, I'm really annoyed with this jet because it's really overpowered. And if they don't start fixing this, this is going to become more of a problem in lobbies. You're going to start getting attacked by Raijus more often the more people use this shit. And history will repeat itself. This thing will turn into the laser eventually, and people will start griefing you in this thing. It's only a matter of time, guys. It's only a matter of time. So, anyways, if you guys like this video and the guide on the F-160 Raiju, then please give me a like, subscribe, remember to hit the bell and all that other stuff, and share with your friends. That would be great. But I'm Tron Ninja, and this is my review of the F-160 Raiju, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.